Foam rolling or self-myofascial release is a technique you can use as part of dynamic warm-up prior to training, or something you can use after training or on an off day to facilitate recovery. So today, in this video, we're going to go over the do's and don'ts of how to properly foam roll, some of the tools you can use if you're gonna use this as part of your week, and we'll go over generally all the major muscles and how that would differ depending on what we're hitting. If we're doing this pre-training, it's going to be a little more focused on certain hot spots or trigger points that you may have in a muscle. So it'll probably be for a 10 to 30 second duration. If we're doing this post-training or as a recovery method, it's going to be a little longer duration, probably anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, and a little more of a global or general focus. Either way, if you're using these techniques, we want to avoid going to a point where it's painful, where you feel that it's sharp, where you feel that you can't breathe correctly, because that's going to negate the effect of what we want to get out of using this technique. And we want to make sure that we're avoiding rolling over any bone. So for example, if I'm rolling the quad, I don't want to be rolling my knee at the same time. Again, having just a good, deep, controlled breath as you go through this as well. If you find that you're kind of making a pain face or wincing, it probably means that you're using too much pressure, so it means that you need to dial back with that as well too. Many people think of foam rolling, they automatically think it should be a 10 out of 10 pain, and that's not exactly what we want when we're trying to elicit a response with these tools. So we're going to start just with a lacrosse ball. We'll start basically from the bottom up with the arch of the foot. So I'm going to use start with the sole of the foot. I can use a lacrosse ball or I can use a golf ball, and basically I'm going to roll a triangle along the bottom of my foot. So just kind of doing a deliberate triangle to my heel, to my big toe, back to the pinky, and just kind of rolling around, nice and deliberate. So pre-training, if I find a spot that's tight, I could pull in the toes to get a bit of a stretch on the foot. I can wiggle the toes as well too. And this is post-training or off day. It'd be more general, going through nice and easy. Okay. Again, golf ball would be great for that as well too. If we go to the calf, you've got a few options with the calf. For most people, the calf's pretty tender, so you might want to use a softer surface roller. So I'm just using a styro roller for this example. So you can work your way, when you roll, you want to work your way into the midline of the body. So I want to start far and work close. So I'm going to start just above my ankle. And I'm just going to go probably in 2 or 3 inch sections, and then work my way up from there. If a spot might be a little more tender or hot for any muscle group, you could stay on that area for a bit, just focus on your breathing. You could do some movements with that joint. So I could do some circular motions, I could flex and extend, and if the pressure is not too much, I could double the weight by stacking my other foot over my leg, or if it's too much as well too, I could put both legs on the roller as well. So you've got a few options there. So you want to start first low calf, and then eventually work your way up to the gastroc, to the high calf. And again with the calf as well too, you've got medial and lateral portion, so you can work those as well. As I said, the calf's pretty tender, so you might want to use the stick as well. So if that pressure is too much, we could do the same thing. We could roll the calf, starting at the soleus and then going to the gastroc. What's nice with the stick is I'm using this, I can put my calf into a stretch position where I'm working on a bit more of the range of that little calf by getting into that nice kind of dorsiflex position, which you're going to need for squatting and lunging. The other great thing about the stick as well is that you can get and work the peroneals, which can be really tender as well too if you're putting all your body weight on a regular roller or a rumble roller. So the stick is really advantageous for anything below the knee. So after that, we're going to just work our way up to the hamstring. So again, I'm using the hamstring. Again, pre-training, I'd probably start in 2 to 3 inch sections and kind of work my way up. Again, remember, there's multiple portions to the hamstring, so I can have my foot turned in for more medial hamstring. I can have my foot turned out for more lateral hamstring. So basically the goal would be you're going to roll your way up, basically to below your glute. Again, post-training, this would be more of like general roll, nice and easy. Pre-training, you're going to try to focus on areas that maybe a little more tight, have a little more tenderness. And really focus on those spots for 10 to 30 seconds. A lot of people talk about the IT band and foam rolling. So while we're here, if you are going to focus on this area, you actually want to avoid putting direct pressure right on the IT band. So in that case, I'd probably be more on the lateral hamstring instead of being right on that IT band and actually irritating it. So you're going to do that. You're going to focus on this lateral aspect of the leg. Try to be more on the hamstring aspect of that. Same thing, if I'm going to work that side for my quad, I can start above my knee and be more on the lateral aspect of my thigh versus being right on the midline of that IT band. So if I'm going to roll my quad on the other side of the leg, again, I'm going to start above my knee, just above my kneecap, avoiding that knee. Pre-training, I'd probably do 2 to 3 inch passes. If it was a post-workout or recovery session, it'd be more of a general roll. So again, with the quad, we've got different aspects to it. I could focus more on that inside of my thigh or almost groin. Or I could be more around the rectus femoris, or I could be on the lateral aspect, the vastus lateralis. So whatever feels best for yourself. Again, if you find a spot that's kind of tight, we just want to make sure we breathe. I can even hold on that spot. I can rotate left and right, or I can flex and extend my knee as well too, and kind of put a bit of a stretch on that area I may be working. Again, for groin, same thing. Start above the knee. You can work your way up in small passes, and then finally go into the midline of the body, again staying off bone. Glute, you've got a few options. So if I'm going to use the glute, I can either be on my side and just kind of rolling in the pocket area. I can roll back and forth as well too. Or I can put the glute on a bit of a stretch by again sitting on the pocket, crossing my ankle over my other knee, and again rolling on that. I'm just going to feel a bit over a stretch using this technique as well too. Again, you could use a softball or a supernova ball, that'd be fine as well for that. If we're going to talk hip flexor, I can put the roller just below my hip bone, and I can rock left and right on that hip. And again, to put more of a stretch on that area, I could get on that, again, just below the bone. And I could do some leg curls here, do a couple of hip extensions, and here I really feel a nice stretch on my hip as I'm getting a bit of a roll there as well too. So again, that's a great one to use. And again, you can even hear rock all the way left in on that TFL and hitting that whole area up top there. So we've hit foot, quad, side of the thigh, hamstrings, groin, and a bit of that TFL. We're going to move up. I try to avoid putting like direct pressure on the low back if you're rolling. We're gonna focus more on the mid back to the shoulders, moving to the next portion. So if I'm gonna work on my thoracic area, I'm gonna have the roller just below my shoulder blades. In this position, you want to focus on keeping tension in your midsection, so almost like you're performing a mini crunch and keeping that lock down. We want to avoid seeing the ribs kind of spilling open. So here, I've got a few options. I can put my hands behind my head into a bit of a sit-up position and think about keeping these ribs down and just focus on extending over the roller, almost like you're bringing your chest over the roller, but keeping this lock down. So you can do a few passes at one range and then work your way up. If you get a few pops and there's no pain associated with that, that's fine. And that's pretty common. So again, I could be here, I can hug myself and do the same thing, I can also roll left and right. Or if I want to stretch my lats, I can reach overhead and then same thing, do a bit of that kind of global roll, focusing on that upper back. Other option for that thoracic extension would be use two taped together lacrosse balls, or this that I purchased as well too, same thing. If you got the kind of this peanut, you can again place it along the spine. Again, tense the abs. We can have that same effect of extending over whatever object you're using. If I move through the lats, take the roller in my armpit area. A few options here as well too. So I can either roll left and right over the roller. I can roll, again if this is pre-training, kind of in 2-inch rolls, starting low on the armpit and then working my way up. Another great one you can use too is grab behind your head and roll left and right, and this will get into that back of the shoulder and into that rotator cuff as well too. So it's a great one to kind of hit that whole area. Again, this is similar to calves. It might be a little more tender than you think because we don't put a lot of direct pressure on that. So again, you don't need to use the hardest density roller. Start light and just see how that kind of feels and go from there. So again, we have lats and we did upper back. We could talk bicep and pec. So again, we can use a few different implements. Like you can use a med ball, you could use a softball. If I'm gonna roll bicep, again, few options. I wanna start just above my elbow. I wanna have either my palm turn to the ceiling or our palm down to hit different parts of the bicep. And again, I'm just gonna roll into the midline of the body. So again, it could be a general kind of post-workout roll, or it could be a little more focused, where I'm putting a little more pressure on a spot that may be kind of tender. If I'm gonna hit pec, again, similar idea. I could have whatever I'm using just below my collarbone. And again, I can work into the midline of the body. And again, this is a great chance to add a bit of stretch to what you're hitting. So I can do a half handcuff. And again, I can work back and forth over that area. I could use, again, a lacrosse ball. And what's nice with this as well, this could be done against a wall as well too, if the pressure is too much on the ground. So you've got a few options depending on what you're using and which muscle group you're hitting as well too. Going back to upper back, if you've got a spot of, let's say, in between your shoulder blades, it's kind of tight or kind of bothersome, you can take one ball and we can put that just beside the spine and the shoulder blade. And again, I can work that just independently. And then here, I could do some rotations with my shoulder here, and I can open up overhead as well, hitting that position. If you're using the ball, you can also be a little more direct with the back of the shoulder as well, and the rotator cuff, by getting in that posterior shoulder. And then same thing, I could get in that armpit area where everything kind of connects. I could do some flexion and extension in this position, or bend that arm a bit, and just kind of work up and down, and left and right on the back of the shoulder as well too. Lacrosse ball is also great for traps. So again, if I have one lacrosse ball, I can put this in that trap area. Again, I can move my arm left and right. I can rotate my neck left and right as well too. If I want more pressure, I can get into a little bit of a bridge. Just a little bit of pressure there. So we hit biceps. Forearms are great with a lacrosse ball, especially if you're doing a lot of gripping or gymnastic work. So to hit forearm flexor, I can get my palm facing the ground and just kind of work my way up If I want more pressure, I can use my other hand to help that, and work my way just below the elbow. So again, if you have very tight hands or tight forearms, and you're doing a lot of push-ups, or you're doing a lot of handstand work, this is a great way to enhance recovery, but also to maybe get a little bit of momentary flexibility and mobility. Same thing, we can work the extensors of the forearm as well too. In this case, the palm would be up, and again, I would just kind of roll either in small sections or a little more generally from top to bottom, which can be great as well if you've got a bit of tennis elbow, if you find you have that. We can treat the palm of the hand like the sole of the foot as well too. So if you have a lacrosse ball or a golf ball, you can put some direct pressure on the palm of the hand as well too, because it does a lot of work. If it gets tight, it's going to manifest itself in issues, like I said, in push-ups or handstand push-ups or anything that requires mobility in the hand or wrist. So again, it's a very general sense of how you could hit most of the major body parts. It doesn't need to be a foam roller, it could be a med ball, it could be a roller with a bit more density, it could be the stick. Many options you can play with. Depending on what muscle you're hitting, you're probably going to find some things are tender and some things can withstand a bit more pressure, and that's fine. If something doesn't feel like it needs it, it probably doesn't. So keep that in mind as well too. You don't want to be the guy who's going to your workout and doing 10 minutes of this and delaying training. So it should be focused. If you're doing this pre-training, you should be doing this on muscles that you will be actually using in your workout. And then if this is a session to kind of help enhance recovery, like I said, it'd be a little more general, it'd be more, kind of hitting the full aspect of the body. And it's going to take a little more time as well too. So again, focus on muscles that need this pre-training, and then recovery-wise, just focus on the entire system. And again, if you're always doing this and you feel like your flexibility, your mobility is always limited, you feel like always tight, you might want to look at maybe why those issues are tight in the first place. If you always roll your pecs and they're always tight, and you always feel like you're always rolled forward, well, maybe have an assessment of your program. Why is that happening? What are the postures in your day-to-day life that are causing that as well too, versus using this as a momentary free get out of jail free card to get through your workout. So keep that in mind as well too. The end goal of this is the more you do it, the less you should need to do it as well. So again, great tool, pre-training, great tool to help enhance recovery. Many implements you could use. You can use it on most of the major muscles of the body. If you need a hand, give us a shout. Hope it helps you out.